Sound the alarm. Governor Gavin Newsom is about to run California into the ground with these new COVID restrictions. All right, let's get ready to get into it. By the way, welcome to this channel. This is Bruce the Boss Brooks. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, comment on this video, and if you are brand new to the channel, thank you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And apparently subscriptions don't really mean a whole lot to YouTube, so please don't forget to also hit that notification bell so you can get notified of my latest content. It's very important that we keep this information out there, and your subscriptions go a long way with helping these videos like this get ranked up higher in the algorithm amidst this YouTube censorship of information that counters the official narrative. So I don't know if you've heard, but they're really trying to sensationalize the story and hype what is really going on in California right now regarding their cases of COVID-19 positives. So according to the report, their testing is coming out to be a little bit over average about 7,900 of new positive cases per day, with hospitalizations at over 4,500. And so this has prompted Governor Bang Your Wife Newsom to enact some of the strictest restrictions during this whole COVID-19 pandemic we've seen just yet. Many counties, about 41 in all in California, are about to go back into what they call the purple tier, which is their most restrictive tier. That means that we're about to see the closures of many indoor operations, such as churches. So they're gonna infringe on your First Amendment right to freedom of religion and or practices thereof. Museums, restaurants, as well as gyms. All of these services will not be allowed once those counties go back into the purple region. And Gavin Newsom is also considering initiating a curfew, people, because apparently COVID only comes out at a certain point of night, and you as citizens or Californians don't know how to make the necessary adjustment, assume the right amount of risk, and or take the necessary precautions on your own without the government telling you when you can and cannot go out. Apparently you are still children living in your parents' home and need to be told when you can come out, when you can stay in. But what's really going on? So I'm looking at these COVID numbers that California is starting to really report, and they're not lying. They are looking at roughly about 7,800 new test positives a day. They are ramping up the testing though in that state. But just looking at the numbers from the start of November, so today's Monday, November the 16th. So we have about 2 weeks sample size of their test positives, and they're not wrong. And when I totaled the number up, it came to over 102,000 test positives just in the month of November alone. Again, 102,175 positive cases. Again, 102,175 positive cases of COVID-19 just this month. But what they're not telling you is that in the state of California, their hospitals, even to this day, are not overwhelmed to really justify another stricter lockdown. You are still talking about a state that has over 74,000 beds. And so while at first thought you hear 4,500 hospitalizations right now due to supposed COVID-19, but out of 74,000 hospital beds across the whole state of California, that still only makes up to be about 6% of the total hospital beds being occupied by COVID-19. 6% out of 74,000. They are still well above max capacity. And speaking of that, again, so 4,500 hospitalizations due to COVID-19. Out of the number I told you of test positive they have so far for the month of just November, 102,175 test positive just in the last 2 months, and only 4,500 hospitalizations. That still only makes up to be 4% of all these COVID positive patients even needing to go to the hospital. The cure does not need to be worse than the disease. We've heard that said many times, and that is so true. We still have a case strictly dealing with California where over 70 to 75% of all of these so-called positive, when I say so-called positive cases, these are test positive cases, meaning these individuals are not really, the majority of these individuals are not sick, but rather they're being tested, and that's how they find out. A lot of them, the majority of them, are either asymptomatic or have very, very, very mild symptoms that allow them to go on with their daily lives. But again, you have a case where over 70 to 75% of all of those who are testing positive are under the age of 50, so kids all the way up to the age of 49, and yet, and with those over the age of 65 representing less than 10% of the positive test cases, and yet it is those who are over the age of 65 that represent over 75% of the hospitalizations and deaths. So what does that tell you? I mean, it tells me that this virus is not as dangerous as they say it is for the general population. It says that you do not need to do a one-size-fits-all draconian measure and a great government reset of the economy to deal with this, but rather you need to identify who is really at risk, who suffers from this the most, and come up with ways to protect that demographic without destroying or burning the whole society down. Because what are you really doing with a lockdown and or these restrictions? By closing gyms, closing restaurants, closing museums, you are destroying the livelihoods of tens of thousands of individuals who can no longer now make whatever living they could make to begin with, because as we all know, those in the serving business, waitress, maitre d's, hostesses, for the most part lived off of tips. Really wasn't that high paying job. And not to mention those who own these small businesses, these small restaurants, are now losing their businesses, going out, losing money. Those who were working are no longer getting any kind of income other than now they're forced to get unemployment. And for what? You're ruining those who work at the gyms and now ruining people's ability to go worship safely, and they can still social distance. And for what? For a virus that primarily affects those who are over the age of 65 and or those with pre-existing conditions. And the only people who are really going to be able to survive these restrictions and these new lockdowns in California are the big chains, while the mom and pop shops, mom and pop barbershops, salons, small restaurants are going to crumble underneath this pressure. The small bodegas or corner stores are going to be destroyed, all the while the big corporations will thrive and survive during all of this. The richer will continue to get rich, while the middle class will get crumbled by these policies. We are seeing the biggest finesse that the world has ever seen, and they're really not hiding it anymore. They're really using this virus to really gain more power for themselves, get people afraid. And the people who are going to suffer the most are the middle class, the working class, who are now seeing their incomes just dismantled. Those who, again, who were at, I guess you can say, upper middle class, small business owners are also going to see their revenues, profits, and life savings dwindled. And then let's not forget about the students, the kids who are in school, who are now forced to work from home due to these lockdowns, are going to fall behind another year. We had a broken school system in the state of California as is, with a lot of kids unable to really keep up, pay attention, get motivated and focus when they were in the classroom. Now you take them out of the classroom where the teacher can't really be there to help those who are struggling, see those who have special needs. They can do whatever it is that they want. They're really not learning. If they weren't really learning much before, they're really not learning much at all. And this is only going to harm the next generation of young people. And they really think we're stupid, that we don't really see what's really going on, who really is not in danger of this virus, but they're using it to do a scorched earth effect across this country because Chicago's getting into their stricter lockdowns. Pennsylvania is about to get into stricter lockdowns. We see what's going on in New York as well. But seriously, 102,000 people tested positive within the last 2 weeks of California. Within the last 2 weeks in California, only 4% of those numbers are even in the hospital to this day. And that makes up only 6% of the hospitalizations in all of California's hospital beds. I think people are starting to wake up all over the country as they're seeing this happen in their particular states and or cities. And this is one of the things I was worried about with a Biden presidency, and especially what was going on in the UK, was whatever happened in the UK, the United States was going to follow about 2 to 3 weeks later. And we see the lockdown starting to happen up in Spain, Germany, and France, with Boris Johnson in the United Kingdom having already increased various restrictions without going into a second lockdown officially in the United Kingdom. But they're practically there in the UK. And then with a Biden presidency, you were just going to see a lot of these state and or city Democratic leaders really feel emboldened to initiate another lockdown here in this country, which is the last thing we need. So you just really need to be informed of what's going on your local and or state levels and really start to fight back against this. Call your state representatives or governor's mansions, or governor's offices, I should say, and say, no, we ain't having it. We as a people can decide what risks we're going to assume, be informed of who's really at risk, what the risks are, what the symptoms, and what we can deal with and or accept, how we can go about living our lives and taking the necessary precautions that we feel as though we need as citizens, because we do need to, at the same time, make money, earn a living. These lockdowns really are the worst, both financially and mentally, because we've seen nothing but a lot of mental issues arise as a result of these lockdowns as well. In certain areas of the country, we had more suicides than we had COVID deaths, as reported in parts of the state of Tennessee. We have a drastic increase in suicides, upwards over 131% since the start of the pandemic, a rise in domestic abuse, sexual assault, alcohol abuse, opioid abuse. All because people are being locked into a prison cell. You're turning this planet into a prison planet, essentially, and the home has become nothing but a glorified prison cell. And the people are feeling it, they're feeling entrapped, claustrophobic, and they're going crazy. And we can't have any more of this. So that's the video. I want to know what your thoughts are. Leave your comments in the comment section. Please don't forget to like this video, share this video. We need to fight and resist what's happening in this country and this world, for that matter, and its persistent use of a lockdown in order for what I believe to be what seems to be a great reset of society and a biggest power grab and transfer of wealth, and just destroying the psyche of the individual and the American people, and at the same time finding an excuse to censor information like this and or other channels, doctors, the frontline doctors of America, anything that offers an alternative view to the narrative. They're feeling emboldened with this pandemic or so-called crisis to be able to censor things that counter any official narrative. So we really need to make our voices heard, support voices in their channels, whether it be like this, offer to Tatum, etc. All right, so don't forget to hit that like button, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This is Bruce the Boss Brooks, and I'm out.